Comic actor John Belushi died today at a rented hotel bungalow in the Hollywood Hills.
Most people know how John Belushi overdosed in the Chateau Marmont. Fewer know that 3 famous actors visited him that night, and fewer still know about the woman who killed him. John Belushi was more than one of Saturday Night Live's first cast members. He was the show's first and biggest tragedy. His teenage experience seemed straight out of a movie. He was football captain, homecoming king, and even the frontman of a band. Not bad for the son of Albanian immigrants. Belushi left Wheaton, Illinois, seeking the same thing that brought his parents there, his own American dream. After high school, John Belushi did something strange. He recommended that Judith Jacklin, his high school sweetheart, dump him. He told her he wanted to be an actor, and that he'd probably never make any money. If she married him, she'd need to be the provider. Belushi had doubts about his career, but Jacklin never did. She stuck by her man, but neither of them had any clue what they were in for. Belushi dropped out of college, moved to Chicago, and co-founded the West Compass Trio. The comedy group's success landed him in the Second City. Working with the legendary comedy club led to National Lampoon's stage and radio gigs in New York. When Belushi and Dan Aykroyd crossed paths at the Second City, the entertainment world was never the same. They were a match made in comedy heaven. In 1975, Chevy Chase and writer Michael O'Donoghue recommended Belushi to Lorne Michaels, who was putting together a new comedy show. But the Saturday Night Live boss had doubts about the 27-year-old and his physical comedy style. However, these doubts vanished when he saw Belushi in action. Michaels invited Belushi, who was reluctant at first, to be part of the show's original cast. Belushi's life and television would never be the same. Sparks flew when Belushi and Aykroyd reunited on SNL, but Belushi and Chase, not so much. Jealousy, specifically Belushi's, was to blame. Chase became an overnight sensation and an unbearable attention hog. But it didn't take long for Belushi to rival Chase in popularity, developing some of SNL's most iconic characters and skits. According to his wife Judith, the darkness in John Belushi was there from the beginning. When the show and the cast were new, some cast members targeted Belushi, the easiest victim. He was from the Midwest, his parents were Albanian immigrants, he was overweight, he was a college dropout, he was a nobody. Belushi could have broken the cycle when he became somebody, but he didn't. By the second season, Belushi was already binging on drugs day and night, and that's before the final blow came in 1977. After a knee injury, doctors gave him a prescription for powerful and addictive painkillers. John Belushi was just 28, and those painkillers would haunt him until the end of his life.
I will now read a list of demands.
He and the rest of the show clashed over everything from his creative choices to his addiction. Michaels would fire Belushi, rehire him, and repeat the cycle. One thing was clear: Belushi was a mess, but he was a talented and indispensable one. After 4 years and multiple dismissals, this time it was Belushi who decided to quit SNL. To many, the decision was baffling. He could have continued coasting on the show's popularity.
New York, it's Saturday night!
What nobody at SNL knew was that Aykroyd was going with him. SNL's demanding schedule tied the cast down and often clashed with other opportunities. Belushi and Aykroyd set themselves free. Shortly after the runaway success of Animal House, one of the most profitable movies ever, and one of the greatest comedies of all time, Belushi teamed up with Aykroyd for the Blues Brothers.
Dry white toast, please.
The film became a cult classic, and their band even made a #1 album. But as Belushi's success grew, so did his addiction. The Blues Brothers' behind-the-scenes antics became infamous. Production even set aside a budget to supply cocaine for the cast and crew. On night shoots, the drug was as normal as coffee. Director John Landis could only tolerate so much. His breaking point was finding a mountain of white powder in Belushi's trailer. Landis flushed the cocaine, reportedly worth around $100,000, down the toilet. Belushi and Landis then fought like wrestlers until their grapple turned into an embrace. Belushi burst into tears and came clean about his addiction. In between the filming of Continental Divide and Neighbours, Belushi was sober. He lived with Judith on Martha's Vineyard, but this didn't last long. When he relapsed on the shoot for Neighbours, he relapsed hard. Being away from his wife and checking into the infamous Chateau Marmont didn't help. February 27th to March 4th, 1982 was Belushi's final week. He spent it partying and club hopping around Hollywood. Chateau Marmont became the after-party spot. Meanwhile, Judith remained at their New York home and barely heard from him. On March 4th, 1982, Belushi showed up to his manager's office begging for $1,500. He swore he just wanted to buy a guitar. His manager knew he was lying. There was no guitar, only an expensive addiction. He didn't give Belushi the money, but later that same day, Belushi came back to ask again. This time his manager was in a meeting and didn't want to rebuke him in front of others. So he gave in and gave Belushi the money, hoping that he was wrong about what it was for. That same day, Belushi invited Kathy Smith over. It was the biggest mistake of his life. Smith was more than his dealer. She also personally injected the needle-phobic star. Soon after, Robert De Niro and Harry Dean Stanton stopped by the bungalow to invite Belushi out. Instead, they found the room trashed, with Belushi and Smith just as bad. Belushi and Smith were in such a state that De Niro and Stanton felt uncomfortable and left. Next, Robin Williams dropped by, and he couldn't resist joining Belushi. But like the others, he soon felt uneasy and left. None of Belushi's friends had any idea that this was the last time they'd see him alive. Nothing could stop Belushi and Smith's binge, not invitations out, concerned friends, or even pain. They kept going even after Belushi complained about feeling ill and congested. He eventually fell asleep. The next morning, Smith checked on him and left. March 5th, 1982, at around 10 AM, was the last time anyone saw Belushi alive. Bill Wallace, Belushi's trainer and sometimes bodyguard, dropped by in the afternoon to drop off some things Belushi had requested. He found Belushi's lifeless body alone. It was confirmed he had died from an overdose. He was 33.
Comic actor John Belushi died today at a rented hotel bungalow in the Hollywood Hills.
If anyone else was to blame for Belushi's death, it was Kathy Smith. She couldn't resist when tabloids offered to pay her for interviews. She talked to multiple journalists about how she supplied the drugs and injected Belushi that night. Smith shrugged it off as nothing out of the ordinary in the Hollywood scene. However, authorities charged her with second-degree murder. 4 years later, she pled guilty to lesser charges of involuntary manslaughter and 3 counts of administering controlled substances. She was sentenced to 15 months behind bars for her role in John Belushi's death. For exclusive perks like early access to new videos, priority replies to your comments, and to have your say on future content, consider becoming a Factinate member. On top of that, your support helps keep the channel going. Click the link in the description for more details. Belushi's gravesite became a tourist attraction. Many visitors were noisy and destructive and disrespectful. Everyone knew addiction ended Belushi's life, yet they littered his gravesite with pill bottles and drug paraphernalia. Jacqueline had to have her husband's body dug up and transferred to a secret spot. To clear Belushi's name and the picture that had been portrayed of him after his death, Judith turned to Bob Woodward, an acquaintance and the journalist who broke Watergate, to write a book about Belushi. Many of his friends, family and colleagues were eager to participate. They wanted to tell the world about the John Belushi they knew. But everyone regretted their participation the moment Wired came out in 1984. The book only added more fuel to the fire, as Woodward showed Belushi no mercy. The star's loved ones declared that his portrayal was exaggerated, negative and one-sided. And perhaps worst of all, Woodward downplayed Belushi's talents. Wired was even adapted into a film in 1989, and Dan Aykroyd didn't hold back. The film was a giant flop. A year later, Judith published her memoir, Samurai Widow, in response to Woodward. While filming Loose Cannons, Dan Aykroyd discovered that one of the actors, J.T. Walsh, had worked on Wired. Filming had already begun, but Aykroyd still forced Walsh out of the movie. It led to a $125,000 production delay, but defending Belushi's honour was priceless. Never meet your idols, and never follow in their footsteps. No one proved this more than Chris Farley. He was a member at Second City, Chicago. He became a beloved SNL cast member. He had a physical comedy style. He even wore Belushi's costumes. He explicitly said he wanted to be like John Belushi. This was all fine until Farley also developed an addiction. Soon, Adam Sandler, another SNL cast member, joined in to try and help Farley. He warned his friend that he would end up just like Belushi if he didn't clean up his act. Farley replied that he was alright with that. In 1997, Farley died in almost the exact same way as Belushi, also at the age of 33. He'd completed his life's mission to be like his hero. Jane Curtin, a fellow cast member, revealed that Belushi was a misogynist who believed women weren't funny. He hated acting in sketches with or written by women, and went out of his way to sabotage female writers and comedians.
Working with him was hard because he didn't respect me, and he didn't seem to respect the other women on the show, or the women writers, so it was difficult working with John.
When asked about Belushi's misogyny allegations, his wife declared, "John actually was a woman's libber before I was," though she confessed he still had systemic sexism, but he was aware of a lot of it and consciously tried to work around it. Judith wanted people to know that John wasn't perfect, but he was a full human being, caring and adventurous and kind, and he not only made people laugh, he made them feel. The original cast and crew of SNL are infamous for their drug use. Show business is already notorious for this vice, but SNL took it to a whole new level. They worked long hours under intense pressure. The substance use was rampant, but also therapeutic. Some cast members couldn't have done the show without it. In 2015, Rolling Stone ranked all 141 SNL cast members. The list reads like a who's who of Hollywood. The competition was fierce, but Belushi came out on top. The magazine declared that Belushi was the live in Saturday Night Live, the one who made the show happen on the edge. Nobody embodied the highs and lows of SNL like Belushi.
Welcome to the end of the road, I guess.
If you enjoyed this Factinate video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories. If you want a say in who we cover next, join our membership program through the link in the description for exclusive perks. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.